Hello YouTube, we're back on our beautiful Land Rover Discovery that was found in a field, and we're going to try and figure out how to repair the active corner enhancement. It's called ACE system, active corner control. I don't know what it's called, some of those things. And what it's supposed to do when you're going around a corner is to steady the Land Rover up, to put pressure on the anti-roll bars and steady the Land Rover up. Lots of them come without it. You know, it was probably only in the better higher range models are an option. However, my car has it, and we replaced all the rubber hoses, all the metal hoses with rubber hoses, something similar to what you'd have on a JCB or a tractor tipping trailer. And whenever we done it, we took the Land Rover out for a drive, and the gearbox was going into limp mode, which is an automatic transmission. And there was an awful vibration sort of noise, like the system was bleeding itself, which we thought was actually the gearbox, because we weren't getting gears very well. So it turned out, in order to eliminate the ACE system, we took off the drive belt, which was a serpentine belt. In olden days they called it a fan belt. And when we took that off, the noise stopped. So we know it's the active corner enhancement or the ACE system. So today, what I want to do, this is the original hose that was on the system, one of them, and inside that hose, if you wiggle it about, there's like a little ball here, apparently, that stops the fluid from vibrating around the system. So what I want to do is take one of the new hoses off the system and see if we can get it joined onto this part of this hose and put the original hose back on with this little system in here, and hopefully that'll be our ACE system repaired. If it's not repaired by that, I think we need to look at doing away with it, because it's not entirely necessary. I mean, it is a benefit, but it's not the be all and end all, essentially. You know, we could probably buy second-hand anti-roll bars, replace the drop links, maybe replace a couple of hoses, replace the reservoir, and for a couple of £100, just do away with it. But given the fact that we've went to this bother to make it work, I'm going to give it one more shot. So that's what we're going to work at today. So we made it, we got it off. It's a little bit tricky trying to figure out on your own when you were pulling the hoses which one was which. But what we need to do is, this is the old hose, this is the new hose. We need this bit in here somewhere. So we need to take out the belts and bearings, put it down, and see if they can join that up for us. So let's go. So the exciting news is there's been the belts and bearings, and I got this hose repaired. I mean, not repaired, but the original part put back on it. So I'm going to now screw it, bolt it onto the car. It fits here on the valve block at the pump at the front, and like a valve block in the middle underneath the driver's seat. I mean, it's just two bolts. One screws on there and that screws on to the other end. I mean, how hard could that be? So anyway, I'm going to put you on time lapse and let's see how it goes. Well, the good news is I got it connected up. It wasn't that tricky. I mean, if you've the right spanner, it makes a lot of difference. And that spanner, a ratchet spanner, 19mm, made it a lot easier. So I'll show you where it connects, the two places, and then I'm going to put the drive belt, fan belt, serpentine belt on and see if it made any difference. So this is where it connects on to this pump here. This is the SC pump. In order to get access to it, I took the air filter and air filter housing off, give me a bit of access, and just lifted this reservoir. It just slots into this bit here. So that made it easier to connect it up. I'm not sure the routing of the hoses, but I'm doing my best to get it right. Hopefully I have. And this is where it connects up underneath the driver's seat, essentially. Well, maybe the driver's feet. And it was the bottom one on that side, furthest away. So it's connected up. So we're going to put the drive belt on and see how we get on. So that's the serpentine belt fitted. I mean, it was a bit tricky, but if you're doing them every day of the week, I suppose it'd be easy enough. But because I'm not familiar with them, I found it a wee bit tricky. It took me about 20 minutes, I suppose. And started her up, and it didn't come off, which is a good help. And I think ultimately now I need to put the fan blades on here, which is left-hand thread, and see how we're done. So excited that this seems to be a success. Now, I still need to route the hoses a bit better, but we're driving now with no issues other than the hose is rubbing the tyre. But gears are changing nice. Come on, Ebenezer. Gears are changing nice, and there was no whining, which was, I thought it was a gearbox, but it clearly wasn't the gearbox. It was to do with the ace. Now it feels nice to drive, so I'm very happy with that. So I'm going to put it up in the ramp and reroute these cables, because in this tight corner here, the driver's side wheel is actually rubbing against the hoses, which is not ideal. No problem. Praise the Lord. So breakthrough. Just a bit more tidying up to do. No lights in the dash. All is well. Hallelujah. Got it on. Don't know why I find this so tricky putting this viscous fan on. Probably because I was turning it the wrong way. However, it's on now. So there's only one thing left to do now is, let's start this girl up again. Let her run for a while and see what happens in relation to the buzzing noise, hammering noise that was coming from the ace pump. Looks good so far. No buzzing, no whining noise, and no lights in the back. Lots of positive. So this is it. The big day, what I've been waiting for. To get the place where I can run the car in for an MOT test. Not anxious, not supposed to be anxious. The Bible tells us not to be anxious about anything, but in all things by prayer and supplication make your wants known to God. Well, here's the thing. We'd like it to go through. We're looking forward to it being tested. However, if there's something seriously wrong with it, thank God for the test to find out what it is and eliminate it. But I don't think there is. So we're expecting favour and looking forward to testing it out and see what the result is. Let's see, does she start? Wow, no messing. Started first time. Just taking her out of the shed. So we're ready to go. This is it. We're on our way. Feels good. my safety belt on. As I'm heading out onto the public road for the first time. This will be the furthest this car's drove in about 7 years. Come on, car, be good. It's pretty good. Tight. Now, insuring this car was a bit of a dilemma. I mean, we went to Footman James, who I've got my classic cars insured with, and Fiat Multipla, which is the same age as this car essentially, 2004. And from now to August, they wanted like £5,000 because it's a QNI reg, which is a registration it's got because over 20 years ago it was stolen and recovered and had a new identity. We don't compare the market, and it just didn't want to know. And another Range Rover insured with Hastings, I believe it was, and phoned up some, well, their contact sounded like some girl in, I don't know, Pakistan or India or somewhere, or else she was in England, but she sounded very broken English. Fine, nice enough girl. But when I give her the registration number, she says, no, that car cannot be 2004 for a start because they didn't make that particular model TD5 in 2004. And I said, well, I know they did. Then she couldn't find it at all. And she told me her company could not insure this car. So that was that good. So I started having thoughts, what am I going to do with this Land Rover? I mean, if you can't get it insured for the road, what's the point in having it? I mean, just to drive around the yard or through the fields. I mean, you could do that, but we've done a lot of work and had a greater vision than that. So, in the morning, I googled insure a Q-Red's car, and the first one come up was Adrian Flix. So, I got in contact with them. And when I moved my no claims bonus off my Range Rover, which was a full no claims bonus, over to Adrian Flux, for a year, this car was £415. Third party fire and theft. I didn't do a comprehensive. It's another £100 and just didn't think it was necessary. So I went back to my Land Rover, Range Rover insurance company, and I got £160 back from them. So given I got £160 back, I'm on the road reasonably good value with this Land Rover. And this is the big test now. This is where we're heading, MOT. The door is closing. She has been engulfed by the MOT centre. Been to the MOT centre and we've got our result. And it's not a pass. But the good news is, it's not a big fail. There's no brake lights. That's it. That's it. No brake lights. So this will be a finally finished classic. I mean, we're going to put some brake lights on. Now, there was no heater. It was cold in the car. However, I took it round to Trevor Aston, John Corey Motors. Such a blessing. He took the pipes off the heater where they go into the bulkhead, the firewall, and let a bit of air out and put them back on, and we have some heat. Not roasting hot, but some heat. And he says if we leave it to cool down with the radiator cap off, he's pretty confident that it'll bubble back out and clean it out. So the heater issue is nothing more than don't fall down. It's nothing more than the air in the system. So we're really excited. So that's it. We're more or less past the MOT. I mean, how hard is it to put brake bulbs on it? Shouldn't be a big deal. So that's great news. So following our MOT failure on brake lights, I felt the brake lights were working a couple of weeks ago and I tried them. However, they're definitely not working now. So the plan is to fit a brake light switch. I mean, I took one of the brake lights off, tried continuity on the bulb. The bulb's fine. The wiring looks fine. And I think now what I'm going to do is change the brake light switch. I've called Donnelly's of Dungannon, County Tyrone, I'd say that is. And I'm waiting for a call back. They were busy. And we'll see if we can get a brake light switch. I mean, you can get one on eBay for £10 or £20. But if you can get one today, that'd be a big help. So that's where I'm at. So I took the light off. It's just 4 screws here on the back. And checked the bulb. And the bulbs are fine. So in order to check the brake light switch, I've loosened this, which opens up the whole pedal box area. And in there is where the brake light switch is. It's down there. See if I can put my finger on it for you here. You can see a white there, a white switch going into it. I mean, to take it off, you turn it anti-clockwise. Obviously take the electrical connection off it first. And I'm working at removing this cover. Get my finger out of the way, underneath here. I mean, it connects on with these sort of wee boys. So I use this sort of a tool to take them off. And I think that comes down there, but there's another one over here somewhere. So I'll take it down carefully to give me access and see if I can get that brake light switch out. So I got the brake switch connector out. It was super easy. I mean, you just turn it anti-clockwise, like a quarter of a turn that comes out. Hopefully it'll, and the electrical connector was a daddle to take off too, so definitely not a hard job. So what I need to do now is source a brake light switch. Back to the brake dilemma. Well, as you know, the first thing we done was we checked the bulbs, and they look good. I mean, there's another brake light up here that I didn't even know I had. So, given the fact that there was no bulbs out, the logical thing to do, that I considered the logical thing to do, which wasn't necessarily the logical thing to do, was check up YouTube and see if anyone else had this problem, to see if, you know, I can learn from their experiences. And I found this video on YouTube that this person had the very same problem, and his problem was the brake switch. The handbrake, or the foot brake switch. So I looked at how he done it, and I took out the existing brake light switch, which was super easy, and then took the electrical fitting off it, and inquired where I could get one. Found one in BLRC, which is about an hour and a half return trip. Zoomed up there, got the brake light switch, came down, and started fitting it. Eventually, after doing the sort of Houdini twists and stuff, got it in. But then I couldn't fit the electrical fitting on it. And no matter how I tried, I couldn't do it. I mean, I might have spent 20 minutes trying to put this electrical fitting on it, worried that it was going to do more harm than good. But eventually I got this really clever idea, was take the brake light switch off, put the electrical fitting on it, and then fit it. So I did that, and eventually I got it fitted. Tried the brakes, nothing. No lights whatsoever. So went onto the internet and checked a few things out. And one of the things I learned was this: that if your reversing lights do not work and your brake lights do not work, they both run off the same circuit, and therefore they're both fused with the same fuse. So I decided to do the thing I should have done in the first place, was check the fuse. So I pulled the fuse cover off just inside and under the steering wheel, similar place to where the brake switch is. Pulled out the fuse, and what do you know? It was actually broken. The fuse was broken. So ran into Portadown to Jimmy Hamilton's and got a brand new 15 amp fuse, put it in, tried the brake lights, still nothing. However, tried the reversing lights and they worked. So I stopped my foot in the brake lights and they came on. Young Christian got in for me, my nephew, and he tried the brake lights, nothing. Then I get in with a big boot and horse, and I says, what are you doing, Christian? The brake lights is working. But I later found out that the brake lights were only working when you stopped your foot on them. They wouldn't work with just pressing them. So I mean, if you come to a junction and just brake normally, you weren't indicating people from behind you were braking. Not unless you were doing an emergency stop, so that was no good. So I got up this morning and decided what I would do. I would take the new brake switch out and I would fit the old one back in again. So I did that. And what do you know? Check this out. So that means we have brakes. So praise the Lord for that. We have now got, well, we did have brakes, we have brake lights, and that means we have an MOT pass when we can run this into the MOT centre and get a retest. £29 to check the lights. Seems a bit expensive, but there you go, that's what it is. But the difficulty with that is it's going to take another 2 weeks because that's big a waiting list. However, I'm super excited because now I know I can go ahead and do some other things in this Land Rover without worrying, does it need a gearbox, without worrying, will it pass the MOT? I know now it will pass the MOT because it has passed the MOT, albeit the brake lights which are now fixed. So super excited to press on with this project and get this to the finally finished classic #1. So just to clarify, that is the brake light switch down there, that little white electrical connector going into the black fitting, sitting at about 10 o'clock. I mean, you put it in at 6 o'clock, turn it round to 10 o'clock, and you must do this with the engine started and the brake lever depressed. I pushed it down with a couple of blocks of wood, and you need to do that or you'll not get it in. And then you let it up and a little ratchet action happens. That means that you have it working at 10 o'clock. You can turn it too far and then what happens is it falls out. This is the brake light switch, that brand new one that I got, which didn't work. I mean, unless you stamp your foot on the brakes, you had no brakes. I might have fitted it wrong, who knows? But it didn't work for me and the old one did. So, moral of the story is, check the fuse first. So now we've got the car ready for MOT. I mean, it has to be presented on the 20th of this month. I'm starting to think about comfort in the car. And the car driving well, accelerating well, the gearbox is working good, praise the Lord. But one of the big issues is now there's no heat in it. Well, there is heat in it, but I went through a lot of stages to try and figure out, you know, try and get information on the internet, to watch other people, how they got through it. Listen to a lot of people who said to me, well, they had the same problem. If you ever get it resolved, let me know how you got it resolved. So this is just going to be a little bit of information showing you how I eventually got the heating to work in this Land Rover. These modern replacements for Jubilee clips have some grip, I'll tell you that. If it wasn't for these new modern pliers for removing them, there's not a hope of taking them off with a pair of ordinary pliers, as far as I can see. Maybe you could, but it would be very difficult. So I intend to slip these two hoses off and see if I can put a hose onto the existing hoses that's there and push the water through the heater matrix with an ordinary water hose to see if I can flush it out. Got the flow coming out of this heater matrix pretty good. Maybe try it the other way, flush it back the ways again. But there's certainly nothing wrong with that flow. At this stage, I don't think. So we've got this reservoir elevated. I just want to take this bleed screw out a little bit. And we have no air bubbles. The engine's cold. And no air. So why can I not get any heat from the heater? Why is the matrix not heating up? So tried all those tricks. It was all like smoke and mirrors to me, but these were all bits of advice that I got from people, and it worked for them, but for me it didn't work. After doing all that bleeding, leaving the cap off overnight, elevating the reservoir high, and raising the front of the car up and bleeding it, letting it run for half an hour with the cap off to try and get it bleeded cold, you name it. I tried it. I mean, if you drove down the road, it was driving great, but it was like sitting in a fridge. It was blowing air and blowing it well, but blowing it cold. I mean, in varying bits of breakthrough. I mean, we got little bits of heat and then no heat, and then it was warm-ish, but not enough to make you comfortable. So, eventually I read this on the internet, that if you use a hose and force water when it's cold down the bleed nipple on the top hose, that it actually will help to alleviate your problem. So I got down these fittings, put it on the hose, opened the bleed screw. You can see it on the top hose, which I've showed you bleeding it before, and forced some water down with this, and it eventually started bubbling out of the reservoir. Left it overnight, got into it the next morning, run down to the petrol station to get some diesel, fuel station may I say, to get some diesel, and what do you know, praise the Lord, heat and lots of it. It was even warm when it wasn't totally heated up, which was a big breakthrough. I mean, I've heard people saying, oh, you need a new water pump, and the water pump on these is not simple. I've never done one, but I looked at it being done on the internet, and there's it's not just a matter of just bolting it off. I mean, there's a bit of work involved in it for not a mechanic person. I mean, it'd probably be a doddle to a real good mechanic, but just to me it wasn't. So, we now have heat, and really now what I'm looking at is doing some cosmetic changes to the Land Rover to get it to how I want it to look. I'm looking forward to driving this. I've got it insured now. It'll be MOT in a couple of weeks. Not much point in, forcing through a retest right now. There's a backlog there. In a week or two, it's the 28th of February, and then I can tax it on the 1st of March and enjoy it. And that's the plan. But we've got to the stage now where we now have heat, but it was a tricky enough operation to get there. The inside of my good Land Rover, the seats, back, front, everywhere are really good condition. No stains, no rips, no anything like that. I mean, the car needs a good clean, but we're going to leave that to Kelvin Davison, that is, classic car care. However, I've done a bit of cleaning on the outside, but it's good and the car looks well. But Calvin will make a great job of it. So he will. Calvin's great at cleaning cars and he has a passion for it. It's particularly classic cars, but I have an issue here with the front two seats, particularly the driver's seat. They're a wee bit bally. So I've bought this tool here, which is a bobble remover. Never seen one before in my life, but apparently it has the potential of lifting this. So I'm going to give it a wee try here and see how it was. I mean, we bought it on eBay for like, I don't know, £8 or something. And I have a couple of cars like this. I have an MG F like this as well. So I'm going to give it a try and see how it looks. So this is it. Let's see how she is. It's a wee bit hard on one side legs. She's stuck in a wee bit here. It's definitely doing something. But it's like a big mower in a 40-acre field on a Massey Ferguson 135 or something. It's done a lot of work. But it's definitely working. But it's going to take a few battery charges to get it over the line. But it definitely is doing the job. And then again, a Massey Ferguson will do a lot of work, like, but it'll do it a lot slower than a 69 John Deere or something like that. But I'll tell you one thing, it has definitely fixed that first part of that seat. But it'll have to go into its rechargeable charger, I think, for the next bit. But it's definitely taking the lumps of it. It definitely works. But it'll take a bit of time and a few charges, I think. Take a lot of diesel on a 135, wouldn't it? Massey Ferguson. There's no point in watching all this. I'll show you the finish, but it works. It's definitely a success. So that's it from Finally Finished Classics this week. At least we have now really got a finally finished classic. I suppose on the finally finished classics part, this car is finished. I mean, the brake lights is working. It's only a matter of running it to the MOT and getting a test on it. I mean, going forward, I want to do a lot of cosmetic things to it. I know I dreamed about having, these is not my wheels, these is Calvin's. So I need to get them off and get my wheels on it. Mud terrain tyres, going to look cool. Maybe wheel spacers. Maybe not just as much as Calvin's, but wheel spacers all the same. And enjoy this here for years to come. You know, I might even put it back up on the ramp and spray in the chassis with a little bit of waste oil that have been known to rust from the inside out. So I want to preserve it as long as I can. I mean, the new chassis and this can be done. It's a couple of grand, but it's a big job. And the longer I can hold it off, the better. I think it's sound enough right now. I've seen on the internet an awful lot worse. But in order to get this car to a stage where I can say it's a finally finished classic, I've had a lot of encouragement from you, and thank you for that. Better than that, I've had a lot of help from my friends, from Billy and the TD5 kid, from Calvin, from my son Luke, even my beautiful assistant at one stage, who's my wife. But I want to thank everybody, and I want to thank you not only for the help, but from the encouragement that I've had to get this Land Rover on the road. It has been fun. You know, there's been times where it's looked like it's not going to pass. The MOT was, you know, how do you know? I mean, if somebody goes round it with an ice pick or something and bangs a hole in the chassis and tells you it needs a new chassis, and I suppose if they had it hard enough they could do it, but then again they could do that maybe with any chassis. But they didn't, and I think the car's going to be a good fun for the family. I can see beach days with their children. It's a 7-seater, and in the summer, and just generally using it to travel about, go for short journeys and stuff. I've no big plans for heading round the Alps or anything with it yet. I think there'll be a time certainly of, making sure that everything's sound and building up confidence and reliability. After all, it was land in the field for years. So I suppose you would call that the rally terms a shakedown. And I'm not saying that we've everything completely perfect on the car. There might be some little issues. I think the windscreen washer reservoir has a slight leak on one of the O-rings. I'm not sure how big a job that'll be to get out. So there's things yet to do. As Winston Churchill once said, whenever the British forces and the Allies won the war in Europe against the Axis, both Germany and Italy and so forth and so on, he did say we can allow ourselves a brief period of rejoicing, something like that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to enjoy the time that's in it. We're going to enjoy where we've got to, and thank you for your support and encouragement. We have got our first finally finished classic. Thank you.